beautiful Northwest Oregon in search of Bigfoot, but no luck so far, kids. Sure wish it was a little bit warmer, though. Who's calling? The most inopportune times. Harvard? Hello, Professor Manuelin, how are you? Yes. I'm in Oregon right now working on a project. Yeah, I know, it's a little bit odd. We're looking for Bigfoot. Precariously propped prunes? That sounds like a mystery. Yes, I don't know why they're there. I'll tell you what, let me finish up this project and we'll get back to you, and I'll call you back from the office tomorrow. Great. Bye now. Kids, it's Professor Manuelin from Harvard. He said that there's a mystery about prunes, whatever that means. I guess we'll have to fly out to Harvard tomorrow and figure out what's going on with all these prunes. Kids, let's get out of here. Man, it feels good to be back home. Woo! Out of that damp forest. Woo! Bigfoot? No luck on this adventure. Kids, it's on to Harvard and the mystery of the precariously propped prunes. I should probably put a tie and a shirt on. So Professor Manuelin said his office was just past the James Madison Park in the library on the second floor. I better get going. I can put this tie on in the car. I feel like it's over here. Sure is a nice day. What's she doing over there? Let's check it out. Let's say hi to her. Howdy.
Oh, hey there, sweetie. How you doing?
I'm doing great. What you doing there?
Oh, honey, I'm pruning.
Pruning? What's that?
Oh, well, come in a little closer. I'll show you.
Come in a little closer? Okay.
So, pardon me. So, it's when you're cleaning out all this junk here. See there? Getting all that junk out and making it nice and pretty.
Okay. Thank you. Well, have a good day.
You too, sweetie.
Kids, let's get out of here. What this whole thing is about prunes. What's the fascination with prunes? Library closed at noon? What the heck? Hey. Hey, excuse me. Do you know why the library is not open at noon?
Oh, yeah, it's locked during lunchtime.
It's kind of weird. Library locked at lunchtime?
Yeah.
Hey, what are you eating there?
Oh, prunes.
Prunes?
Mm-hmm. You want some?
Cool, we finally made it to the Harvard Library. Check this place out. Man, all we have to do now is find out where Dr. Manuelin's office is. He said the second floor. But wait, does that include the mezzanine level? 1, 2... Jeez, this library is so huge. Wait. What's that? Kids, It looks like it's a bag of prunes. Wait, prunes in the Harvard Library? It looks like they're precariously propped. Precariously propped prunes at the Harvard Library. That sounds like a mystery to me. Let's go back to the Genius Lab and analyze that a little further. Kids, hey, I snuck into the Wizard's library. Maybe we can do some personal research here and find out some clues about what's going on with the prunes at Harvard. Let's take a look at this book. Hey, I found something. Check it out. Prunes, a dehydrated plum from which the majority of the original water content has been removed either naturally or through sun drying. That's not very helpful. Let's see if there's something else. Check it out! Listen to this! Pruning. To reduce the extent of, quote unquote, something. By removing superfluous or unwanted or unnecessary parts. Here's an example. Thomas Edison deliberately pruned away the details from his research presentation so the investors could understand his idea more clearly. Kids, I got an idea. Let's get out of here. Kids, here's my idea. The pruning technique. The pruning technique says we're going to go ahead and reduce the sentence length by pruning or cutting out unnecessary information. Unnecessary information can come in two forms. It's either a dependent clause or it's going to be a mummy wedge. Let's go ahead and look at both different ways. Pruning dependent clauses. You'll see two types of dependent clauses. The first one is called time dilation, and the second one is a regular dependent clause. Time dilation means they're going to throw a dependent clause on the front of your sentence. This front dependent clause is a fragment, but it has some type of relationship to time. That's why we call it time dilation. If you look here, here's our example. In 2015, comma, Professor Thomas went to Egypt. Here in 2015, dependent clause, and Professor Thomas went to Egypt. That's our independent clause. Remember, pruning means just getting it down to the independent clause. So we simply prune or get rid of the dependent clause on the front end. Time dilation, check. We go on to a regular dependent clause. A regular dependent clause, remember from the abandoned boxcar, a dependent clause is going to give you a mini definition of the word just to the left of the comma. Here's our example. Here's our comma. Here's our word. Sean made a hideout. That's an independent clause. Let's see, comma here. And then it says a hidden tree fort in his backyard. That is a mini definition of the word right before the comma, which is hideout, according to abandoned boxcar, and this is our dependent clause. When we prune dependent clauses, we simply just cross them out, so we see the gist of the sentence. We don't need somebody to tell us what a hideout is. A hideout is, a place to hide. Dependent clauses, kids, prune, cross them out, so you get it down to the independent clause. Pruning with mummy wedges. What's a mummy wedge? A mummy wedge is a word that starts a preposition that separates the noun away from the verb. Let's take a look at our first example. Shreya, in the blue shirt, studies long hours. Shreya is our noun, and studies is the verb. Here is a mummy wedge, the word in.
that starts a preposition, and a preposition is non-essential information, so therefore we can cross it out. Shreya studies long hours. See how when we cross out the mummy wedge, we prune and cut out the non-essential information. Note, a mummy wedge can come between a noun and a verb in a sentence, or also it can come at the end of the sentence. Let's look at this example. I met Allison on the bus. On the bus is a mummy wedge. When we cross it out, we prune and make the sentence short. Notice that when we do this, we still have an independent clause, I met Allison. Up here, Shreya studies long hours. That's still an independent clause. Pruning with mummy wedges. Pruning with mummy wedges? But how can I recognize a mummy wedge? Here's a simple technique, kids. Take a bottle of apple cider vinegar and a bumblebee, and have the bumblebee buzz around the bottle. And then ask yourself if that word that you're considering to be a mummy wedge has anything to do with the location. Let's go ahead and give it a try. How about the word in? The bee in the bottle. How about the word on? The bee on the bottle. The bee under the bottle. The bee next to the bottle. The bee above the bottle. The bee below the bottle. The bee with the bottle. Think of the bee and the bottle and consider location. How about this one? As. The bee as the bottle. Does that have anything to do with location? Think bee, think bottle, think location. Kids, that will start you off with a mummy wedge. Remember, the whole concept here is pruning. When we prune, we get rid of unnecessary information. In this case, a mummy wedge is a preposition we can go ahead and cross out and reduce the sentence length. Now, let's take this information and apply it directly to some ACT questions. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at pruning and how you're going to use this on ACT. So the first problem that we're going to do here is problem number 7, and then we'll look at the next sentence. So problem number 7 is right here, and the beginning of the sentence will start up here, and the end of the sentence will start here. So we will go ahead and identify that there is a comma after tomato. So what we do is we go ahead and read up to the comma and label it. After finishing this first tomato, that's a dependent clause, all right? So according to the abandoned boxcar, what we're going to need is we're going to need a dependent clause if we start like that, and an independent clause on the back end, because that says abandoned boxcar, all right? So whatever we put in the second part has to be an independent clause. When we prune, we can go ahead and just simply cross this out. Why? Because it's a dependent clause. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're looking at right now. So our answer choice must make this an independent clause. Let's go ahead and try A. While reaching for another. That doesn't work. That's dependent. If he were to reach for another. That doesn't work either, because that also is a dependent clause. Next, reaching for another. That doesn't make any sense. It's a little bit hazy. And D says he reached for another. He is our noun. And what is the verb? Reached. We went ahead and pruned out that dependent clause to make it a little easier for you to understand and read. Let's look at the next sentence right below here. Here we say stunned, comma, and another comma here. Stunned. Okay, that's time relationship. Time dilation, we cross it out. It's dependent, all right? The audience watched Johnson defy death. That's an independent clause. Fully expecting him to fall in agony at any moment. That is a dependent clause. And if, remember abandoned boxcar, the dependent clause is going to have to give you a mini definition of defying death. We are watching him fall into agony. That is defying death. And when we went ahead and prune this out, we could simply just cross this out all the way to the end, just simply leaving the independent clause. Kids, example number 1 and example number 2 for pruning. 15. 15 will start up here at the word it's, and it will run all the way down here to television. All right, let's go do some pruning. Here is the word and that has also been featured on television. When we cross that out, the sentence gets shorter. All right, we take a look at our answer choices now. Answer choice A says no change, which is a comma. It's the instrument. We go ahead and label it dependent. All right, now in order for A to work, we need what on the back end? We need an independent clause. Let's check. That haunts the soundtrack to the 1997 film Titanic. You see that that's dependent. That does not work. We can go ahead and cross out answer choice A. Answer choice B is a dot comma. A dot comma means there's going to be a list, an explanation, or a direct quote, and that this is going to give you more information about the word that's right before there. If it's a list, it would be a list of instruments. If it's a description, it would be a description of instruments. So let's look and see if that actually works. That haunts the soundtrack. Is that more information or a description of instruments? Nope, it's misused. Answer choice C tells us a dot comma. A dot comma from a quick review is going to be two independent clauses joined together with some type of relationship. We already know that that doesn't work because the first part is a dependent clause and so is the second part. That only leaves us with answer choice D. See how easy this is, kids? Get rid of the stuff we call junk, unnecessary information, by the process of pruning. 15B. Let's try one more problem together. Problem 21, then we'll cut you loose. Problem number 21 is right here. The beginning of the sentence is here, and the end of the sentence is way down over here. When we read this sentence, it says, a person playing a tin whistle can produce different notes by covering up all, some, or none of the 6 holes in the instrument's body, and by blowing into it more or less forcefully and quickly. All right? So right away, I look over here, and I see the word and. If we were to cross out and by blowing into it more or less forcefully and quickly, let's cross that out. Prune. And now read the sentence. A person playing a tin whistle can produce different notes by covering up all, some, or none of the 6 holes in the instrument's body. See how it's easier for you to read and see which one sounds a little bit better. Now, let's go ahead and cross out some of the mummy wedges. Here's a mummy wedge. In. The B in the bottle. In the instrument's body. When we cross that out, let's go ahead and read it. A person playing a tin whistle can produce different notes by covering up all, some, or none of the 6 holes. See how now it's less work for your ears to listen to by pruning. All right. Here we see the word or and a comma. That's a fanboys. So that means that this whole thing has to be an independent clause. Let's try and cross it out and see what happens. A person playing a tin whistle can produce different notes by covering up all, comma, some. All, comma, some. Okay, well, we need the 6 holes in there, but what if we came over here and we got rid of this mummy wedge? Okay, the B by the bottle, by covering up all or some. All right, now let's read it. A person playing a tin whistle can produce different notes. That's still an independent clause. You see it? Now, let's throw our answer choices in here. Once we pruned, see which one sounds the best. A person playing a tin whistle can produce different notes. A person is playing a tin whistle can produce different notes. Sounds weird. How about C, played? A person played a tin whistle can produce different notes. Sounds weird. And D, plays. A person plays a tin whistle can produce different notes. A is the correct answer when we prune all of that garbage out of there. Remember, when you prune it, get it down to the independent clause as much as you can. Let's go ahead and take a look at another problem. I'm going to have you work independently. Problem 22, kids, you're on your own. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and cross out mummy wedges. cross out dependent clauses, and get it down to the gist of the sentence and use your ears to see which one sounds the best. A quick note, my recommendation here, since this sentence starts here and ends here, start at the period and work your way backwards and get rid of all that extra junk. Go ahead, pause the video here, and I'll give you a rundown of what I did to come up with the correct answer. Go ahead, pause the video now, and cross out your mummy wedges and dependent clauses. Come up with the answer. All right, we're back again, kids. I started back here at the period of the note, and I said this. Here's a mummy wedge here. It says of, right? So I went ahead and of their mouth as they begin a note. Experienced players can bring in a still greater variety of sounds by making quick changes in finger placement and by touching their tongue to the roof. All right? We crossed that out. That's extra information. Hey, 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 hey! Here's the word to. That's a mummy wedge. To the roof. Let's cross that out. Experienced players can bring in a still greater variety of sounds by making quick changes in finger placement and by touching their tongue. Here, the word and by touching their tongue. Let's cross that out and read the sentence. Now, experienced players can bring in a still greater variety of sounds by making quick changes in finger placement. See how it's still a complete sentence when we cross all this junk out. Wait, there's more. The word in, this is a mummy wedge. Let's cross it out. In finger placement. Let's go back to the beginning and read again. Experienced players can bring in a still greater variety of sounds by making quick changes. See, still it's an independent clause. Wait, the word by. The be by the bottle. That's a mummy wedge. By making quick changes. Let's cross that out. Read now. Experienced players can bring in a still greater variety of sounds. See how we've gotten this down so simple. So simple, kids. All right? Let's go ahead and plug our answer choices in. Experienced players can generate a still greater variety of sounds. H. Churn up. Experienced players can churn up a still greater variety of sounds. And answer choice J. Fetch. Experienced players can fetch a still greater variety of sounds. When you go ahead and cross out all this extra junk mummy wedge stuff, you see that the best answer choice here is only one that sounds normal, is generate. Experienced players can generate a still greater variety of sounds. Boom, boom, boom. 22 is G, using mummy wedges. Kids, look at what we did here. We got rid of probably 75% of the sentence. We reduced it so there's less work for your ears to do. Kids, you're up again. It's problem 27. The sentence starts over here with the word late and goes all the way down here to Charleston. My recommendation is to start here at the period and work your way backwards. Get rid of dependent clauses, get rid of mummy wedges, and cross that stuff out using the pruning technique. Then go ahead and select the correct answer. Pause the video here. We'll come on back with the explanation and answer in a moment. All right, problem number 27. Here's what I did. I said in late 1861, comma, that's a dependent clause, and that deals with time dilation. See the date? I went ahead and crossed that out. All right. So now it says the newly formed Confederate government chartered the planter to transport weapons and supplies between the many fortifications around Charleston. All right. The word to, the bee flies to the bottle. All right. So I know that this all can be crossed out. And we should still have an independent clause. The newly formed Confederate government chartered the planter. All right, that sounds okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at answer choice B. B says, being that a newly formed Confederate government chartered the planter. That is a dependent clause. We can cross that out right away. Why? Because if this is a dependent clause, we need an independent clause over here. See that? Let's take a look at C. C says it was the. It was the new formed Confederate government chartered the planter. That sounds a little bit weird, and the word it makes it hazy. It is a hazy pronoun, even though that still is an independent clause. I'm not loving it because of the word it. And to take a look at answer choice D, as a result of a newly formed Confederate government chartered the planter. You see that that's a dependent clause. That can be crossed out right away. So the only answer choice that is going to work for problem 27 is A. Kids, prune it. Kids, the last problem, problem 32, let's go ahead and work it on your own. It starts over here with the word in and ends over here with the word birth. Let's go ahead and get rid of mummy wedges, dependent clauses, reduce it down to its basic essence. Plug your answer choices in, see which one works. Pause the video here. We'll come on back with the explanation and answer in a moment. All right, kids, first thing I did, I came over here and I said that there is a comma here after darkness. I read from the beginning to the end. Where that comma is in the darkness, I labeled that a dependent clause. Dependent clause, according to pruning, we can cross it out because dependent clauses, we just get them out of there along with mummy wedges. We're looking just for the independent. Now, according to the abandoned boxcar rule, we know that whatever we have left from here to here has to be an independent clause. Let's check answer choice F. As he steamed the boat away from its berth. If you were to cross off the word as, this would be an independent clause. He steamed the boat away from its berth. The word as is something called a subordinate conjunction. It's one word that changes an independent clause into a dependent clause. So therefore, it's going to violate the abandoned boxcar rule. Because when you do that, you see with the subordinate conjunction on the front, you have two dependent clauses linked together by a comma. That doesn't work. Answer choice G does the same thing. It has the word as again, another subordinate conjunction. It's dependent, comma, dependent. Get it out of there. Answer choice H says Smalls. Smalls steamed the boat away from its berth. That makes it an independent clause. We have a dependent on the front, the comma, and an independent. That works according to the abandoned boxcar. Let's put a dot by it. And answer choice J says while he. While, once again, is a subordinate conjunction. It makes an independent clause dependent when it's just one word thrown on the very front. If we crossed out that subordinate conjunction while, like we did with the word as, you see that it would be an independent. He steamed the boat away from its berth. Be careful, kids. Subordinate conjunctions, it's one single word thrown on the front of an independent clause to make it dependent. The only answer choice that's going to work here, kids, problem H for 32. My recommendation, kids, go ahead, make a 3x5 note card, write down the definition of a subordinate conjunction, write down your mummy wedges, and a note or two about what pruning means to you. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.